Irish survivors living in the United Kingdom warned Judge Ryan that innocent religious would come to the courts to challenge Commission decisions to name only the institutions in which abuse took place. Mick Waters said that religious who had not abused would feel painted with the same brush as perpetrators who'd remain anonymous.
The High Court has granted legal costs estimated at up to €1 million to the Christian Brothers, arising from the congregation's legal challenge to investigations by the Commission inquiring into child abuse. While the congregation had failed in its legal challenge, Mr. Justice Abbott said the case had affected its...
Now, John Perry, this deal was signed off in the office of Arthur Cox, the solicitors. That in itself is astonishing, isn't it? Because it's a big expenditure by the state, and it's a legal issue, and it should have been done in a government department or in a legal office belonging to the state.
Has described as unwise a decision to exclude him from the negotiations that led to the controversial compensation deal for victims of institutional abuse. Mr. McDougall said that as Attorney General he'd been kept out of key meetings by the then Education Minister Michael Woods. He said as a result he couldn't say whether the best deal possible had been agreed.
First though tonight we turn to the very serious allegations made yesterday at the Commission of Inquiry into Child Abuse by senior Christian brother David Gibson. Brother Gibson claimed that some former residents at the industrial school at Letterfrack in County Galway had effectively conspired with their lawyers to make up stories of abuse for the sole purpose of claiming compensation. Naturally, abuse victims reacted today with fury.
Child abuse, where he was asked to explain the rationale behind the state's apology in 1999 to victims of abuse in state-run institutions. Mr. Ahern told the Commission that the state had let the victims down and should have done better. Therefore, he said, it was important to say sorry.
The Taoiseach's appearance at the Child Abuse Commission lasted just over half an hour. Mr. Ahern told the Commission how his government decided to take positive action in 1998 when the issue of institutional abuse came to the fore. He said that he was moved by the stories of victims whom he met at that time and decided a full public apology from the state was needed.
I'm just glad to have been able to contribute towards explaining what I think was a central issue of this, is the apology end, because that was for the victims. We want to move and see that the case is dealt with over the next period, and needless to say, I just wish the Commission and the committee well in its work.
In his evidence, the Taoiseach said legislation to set up the Child Abuse Commission was moved through the Oireachtas, as he put it, quicker than quick. Outside the Commission, groups representing abuse victims reacted to his appearance.
I think this Commission should be able to make recommendations that these perpetrators be brought to face the courts, and so the victims can get some real justice. That isn't happening at the moment.
I think the particular importance of the Taoiseach's appearance and what he had to say was that he once again affirmed the position of the state and of the government that abuse on a systemic basis did happen across Irish institutions being run by Catholic Church congregations, that he found people who came forward speaking of that abuse 10 years ago, plus 10 years ago and more, to be genuine, to be honest, and to be truthful, and that the government accepts that this abuse did happen.
Thank you, Mr. Ahern, for apologising, and please let the state take full responsibility for what happened in the homes. Be open and honest with the Commission. Don't whitewash. Don't let the religious carry the can for everything.
It clearly shows that we've come a hell of a long way. This is like climbing Mount Everest.
The Taoiseach's appearance here today has produced a wide range of responses from groups representing victims, but all agree that his appearance was helpful. The Commission has now adjourned its work until next week. Gareth O'Connor, RTE News.
Who let the dogs out? I have no problem with what I done. One of the brothers in Ferryhouse was my best friend at that time, until I found out that he was being charged with abuse. I went to him then and I told him straight out, don't ever mention my name.
You know, it is just unsurmountable to grasp how we, the survivors, are feeling, because justice, again, has let us down.
Who let the dogs out?
Hogan, I mean, it's hard enough, as we know, for victims to come forward.
Absolutely.
Isn't it very hard, though, now that somewhere they're being told they're not telling the truth?
Can I say, for a start off, this is a very difficult issue. None of us had an easy time in the industrial schools.
Do you believe, if we're talking about, people before the redress board, are you talking about a few people who may be making up stories? Tell me, what do you believe?
It's impossible to say how many. There's 14,000, almost 14,400 people in the redress board. It's almost impossible to know. All I know is we, the 130 of us that were in the institutions, know of people who have been falsely accused.
Sorry for cutting off you. The compensation almost is a double-edged sword. Because obviously there was a lot of sympathy for people, for these victims, but when money comes into it, people worry.
Miriam, you weren't in my home, where I had to get in a second and a third line in 1996. There wasn't a whiff of compensation. Okay. In 1992, when my father was here, and the phone calls I received, there wasn't a whiff of compensation. And yet survivors were telling their stories to me and to other survivors. So this is not about compensation.
It is just unsurmountable to grasp how we, the survivors, are feeling, because justice, again, has let us down.
John, you're saying your members, you represent about 400 people, I think, in Ireland and in Britain. And you're saying that your members will not cooperate with the commission.
What Christine says there actually is a contradiction. In one breath she's saying that, we don't have to put survivors through this again at another tribunal, and yet she's saying that the judge can come back and make more recommendations.
But surely this is an area where victims, probably will have different responses to the experience.
The report has found a much more systemic volume of abuse in institutions than was previously known or accepted.
What I'm trying to do is talk. What I want to do is
elected, and I'm accountable, and we have held public meetings.
We're not going down the road. Christine, John, we're not going down the road. We're here to talk about.
I understand.
The Superior General of the Irish Sisters of Charity has said her order would not align itself with other religious orders who have apologised in public for sexual abuse that took place in their institutions. Speaking at the child abuse inquiry, Sister Una O'Neill said abuse that took place at St. Joseph's in Kilkenny, where many disturbed children were cared for in the 1970s, had not been carried out by members of the order.
The Superior General distinguished between abuse carried out by other religious orders and sexual abuse that took place in the 70s at St. Joseph's. She gave detail of how boys at the time found it difficult to communicate what was happening to them to the authorities, and how even the superior running the home might not have understood what she was being told because of a lack of sex education. 5 former residents of St. Joseph's in Kilkenny complained of sexual abuse. 3 of those cases were taken to the High Court. Separate damages of 370,000, 300,000 and 75,000 euro were awarded to men who had been abused as boys by 2 housemasters and 1 lay woman at St. Joseph's in Kilkenny. Today, the Superior General of the Sisters of Charity said she would not align her order with other orders who had apologised in public for abuse carried out at their institutions. She said that in the case of the Sisters of Charity, it was the abusers who were not sisters belonging to the order who were responsible and should apologise. In the 3 High Court cases involving St. Joseph, the state will pay the damages in question because the cases were begun before the redress board was set up. Conor Mark Kavanagh, RTE News.